Hi guys, welcome back. This is Nightingale with Nightingale Creations, and today we're going to be going over some corner to corner crochet. I don't know if you noticed recently, I had a little cow blanket slash plushie that I did with a similar graph, and that was by repeatcrafterme, and the yarnspirations was the graph. I went ahead and pulled the graph up on Photoshop and fixed it a little bit to be more giraffe-y and less cowy, you know, because the patterns on each animal are a little bit different. I'm going to be using this yarn, which this is cinnamon and this is sun gold. And it's the I love this yarn, just regular worsted weight yarn. It says 5mm, but yeah, we're going to be using 5mm. It's also a USH. So USH or 5mm crochet hook. And the process of corner to corner is basically we're starting at this corner, which is black here, but it's actually this cinnamon color. And you go from this corner to this corner. And as you go, you're going to go across in rows from here to here, all the way across as you go up. And there's a few techniques that you'll need to know as you're going. You're going to start, let's just start and then we'll get into more. But you're going to start with a slip knot. And if you don't know how to do a slip knot, you are probably not advanced enough for this pattern. This pattern is a little more advanced, intermediate. It's about in between intermediate and advanced. So if you are a beginner and you need a beginner video, I do have a beginner video on my channel. You can go find that and come back, you know, when you've developed your skills a little bit and are ready to do something more advanced like this. So the first thing we're going to do to start our square is, and I want to give a warning that my corner to corner is not going to be the same as everyone else's corner to corner. It really depends on the pattern, so make sure you're reading the pattern, and unless you're doing the same pattern, then you should be fine. But if you're just trying to learn how to corner to corner crochet for a different pattern, you're going to want to look at that pattern and make sure that you're doing it the same way that they're doing it. But this is the most basic corner to corner technique. So you're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I do apologize, I'm still dealing with some allergies. So then you're going to go to the third loop from the chain, half double crochet, and then half double crochet all the way down to your knot. So that should be 3 in total. 3 half double crochets. And as you can see, that's our first block right here. And I go ahead and number them, so I have 1 brown block. 1 brown. As you go, you're going to have to be switching colors, so you're going to need to know exactly how many gold blocks are in between the brown or cinnamon blocks. So it's smart to just start here. And as you go, you're going to, so 1, I'm starting on the end here, so I'm going to start counting from here. 1, 2. You're just going to start counting from the opposite way you're going. You're going to chain 5 again to increase. Anytime you need to increase to make more squares, you're going to do this technique. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and do the same thing we just did with the 3 double half crochets in the hook, in the loops. Now, as you can see, you have 2 different squares. You're gonna have to turn this square just like this. It's hanging like this, looks like little pants. You're gonna turn this pant leg, and this first chain, when you skip the first 2 loops and work in the 3rd loop of the chain, that's how you create this little chain space. As you can see, there's a chain space right here, and there's also a chain space right here. You're gonna slip stitch into that chain space. Sorry, my yarn's being a little finicky. Slip stitch into that chain space, chain 1, 2 chains, and then you're gonna half double crochet 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and this is all in the chain space. You're gonna keep in the chain space. That is the technique you're gonna use when you're just adding blocks and you're not actually increasing. So let's do 1 more row just to get that down. So right now we're at the end of our 2, and we have to go to our 3 right here. Well, we're counting this way, 1, 2, 3. And I go ahead and write the number whichever way I'm counting. So we're gonna do an increase, chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3rd loop from the hook, we're gonna do 3 half double crochets all the way to the bottom. 1, 2, and 3, all the way to the bottom. And you're gonna have to turn this so you can get to this chain space. Slip stitch into your chain space, chain 2, 1, 2, half double crochet 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. Then you're going to do another slip stitch into this chain space. Chain 2, 1, 2, half double crochet 3 times. 1, half double crochet, 2 half double crochets, and 3 half double crochets. As you can see, we have created this little square in our graph right here. This was our first square or block, our 2 next blocks, and then the 3rd row with 3 blocks. Now your next thing is going to be, you're going to start down here because you ended here. You're going to start here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 blocks across. Go ahead until you get to the, it looks like the 8th row. Go ahead to the 8th row, and then I will come back and show you how to change colors. And at some point, once we get up to a certain row, we're gonna have to decrease, and I'll show you how to do that when we get there. But go ahead and finish up to row 8, which is right here. And meet me back here, and then we'll work on changing colors. So we're all finished with our 8 squares. As you can see, it literally mirrors the graph right here. It's a nice little corner. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for row 8. And row 9 is where you're going to change colors. Here is where the golden rod starts. 4 golden rod colors right there. Now, when you change colors, there's a lot of different ways you can change colors. Personally, I like to carry over just because it's kind of the easiest way to go about, and that way you don't have like 1,000 tails at the end to sew in. You could also ball up your your yarn, make multiple little balls of yarn, and use multiple yarns. I will be showing the carryover method. I'm gonna... Normally, if you're changing yarn, well, I'll show you when we get down there, but for the edge, I'm going to just make a loop, leave a tail. And we're chaining 5 for our increase, so this one little chain is going to count as one of our chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we're going to find the third chain. 1, 2. Make sure you keep this tight, it will pull out. And then 4. Keep that tight too. And we're gonna bring this around, this brown. Keep this back here. We're not tangling too much. Bring this brown around. And what you can do is make one side the wrong side and one side the right side. So if you want to make this side the wrong side, then you're gonna make sure you keep all of the yarn as you're weaving it in, keep it on this side. When you turn over, you're gonna continue to keep it on that side. That way that if you can see the yarn poking through, you shouldn't be able to see it too bad. But if you can, it will all be on one side, hopefully the bottom of your blanket. I'm gonna just loop this around just like this, so that when I come in here to slip stitch, I already have this yarn brought in. 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3 half double crochets. And as you're going, you can go ahead and pull this a little tighter. That way you see it less. It won't much matter since this is already brown down here, you won't be able to tell. But as you go, you may be able to tell. Just go ahead and pull that yarn as tight without pulling it too tight to where it bunches up. So we have 1, 2 of our 4 squares. And we need 2 more squares. Slip stitch into our square here. Make sure you're keeping this yarn right over. You're gonna go ahead and tie it in. 1, 2, half double crochet 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. And we're just going to do that one more time. Go ahead and pull this tight. And we have our 4. Sorry, it should be like this, but we have our 4 yellow. And we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 browns. So you're going to do the same thing. Pull your brown. This time you're going to have your brown in your hand. And you're going to lay over your gold. One, 2, 1, 2, and 3. Lay over your gold. Slip stitch into your brown. 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. So as you can see, you can kind of see the yellow. So when you pull it taut, you don't see it as much. And this is going to be our wrong side. So when you turn it over, you can see that you can't see it at all. If that bothers you, like I said, you can go ahead and make little ball up other yarn and have multiple different balls and just slip stitch that yarn in. I personally don't like a lot of tails, and I don't mind the look of a little bit of the yellow peeking through. It doesn't really bother me, so that's why I just go ahead and carry it over. It's the easiest. So go ahead and continue and really just keep going. You're gonna just keep following the pattern just as we were doing, counting the gold, then counting the brown, until you get up to the corners. And once you get to the corner, we'll come back and I'll show you how to do the decrease. Because once you get to the corners, you're going to stop doing the increases where you chain 5 and you're going to start doing decreases, and I'll show you how to do that when you get to there. But go ahead and work from 9 all the way up, and we'll meet you back here. Okay, I'd like to do the last couple of this row before the decrease with you. Your work so far should look like this. As you can see, we have a pretty good giraffe pattern going on. This was where we started. And we just followed the graph to a T. And we're getting up here to the corner, which is where we're going to be making our decrease. So I just wanted to do the last couple with you so we could go over those color changes again. Make sure you're doing those color changes correctly, and then I can show you how to do the decrease. So we're at the end of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blacks. So right here, so we're 1, 2, 3 golds. Make sure you're carrying over this color. Just taking this gold over this brown, and the reason why I'm doing it this way is so my yarn doesn't get tangled. I'm keeping the brown behind the gold to keep it from twisting it around and getting it tangled. So we're gonna make sure that's nice and tight. Chain 1 and 2, and then 3 half double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, sorry, 3. We're doing 3 of these, and we're carrying over our brown. Make sure our brown stays behind our gold. 1, 2, and 3. And according to our pattern, this is our last gold for this stretch. 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. And we're back to our brown for 1 and 2. Keeping our gold in the front, brown in the back. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, and 3. We're keeping our gold, pull it nice and tight there so you're not seeing it through the brown. We're doing 1 more brown. 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. And that's the last of our brown for this stretch. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gold. So I'm going to take this brown and leave it in the back just like this, so it's not getting tangled with my gold. And I'm going to finish this stretch of gold because this whole next stretch is all gold, so I will not need the brown again until I get back down in here. So I don't need to bring it over and all the way back. And it will be you'll see it'll be much easier to just continue these squares without having to hold the color in the back. 2, 1, sorry. 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. Slip stitch to that next one. 1 and 2. 3 half double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. And our last couple we're coming to right here. As you can see, we have 3. We have to do 6. We have 3 more. That's 6. 1, 2. 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. We're on our last golden square. And so for this row, since we're at a corner, we are starting to decrease from here. I know every row that we've done so far, we've chained 5 for an increase. Now we're actually going to do an increase. So instead, or you're gonna just chain 1. Oops. We're gonna chain 1. We're going to flip our work. And we're going to slip stitch into each of these stitches on the top. Slip stitch across until you get to your chain space. We're at our chain space, so we're going to slip stitch into our chain space. And then you're going, Then you're going to chain 2 and create your block just like you would. 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. As you can see, we kind of created that little corner right here. So all you did was slip stitch into each of these until you got to the chain space, and then the same pattern you've been doing all the way across is the same. As you can see, we're going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more gold. So as you go across, you're going to be continuing the pattern we've been doing with the gold. And just continue across. Now each time you get to the edge, each time you get to your ends or your ends down here, you're going to continue to decrease just as I showed you. Now, as you can see, this corner starts to decrease before this corner. So when you get down, after this row, when you get down all the way back down here, you're not decreasing yet. You're not going to decrease until you get to this corner. So on this side, once you get all the way to the end, you're going to increase again. You're going to increase only on this side. So make sure you know what side of your pattern you are on. You're going to continue to decrease on this side and increase on this side until you get to this corner. Go ahead and do that, and we will go ahead and do the next 1, 2, 3 rows. And once you get to this corner, I will show you how to decrease again, but continue increasing on this side until you get to this corner, and I will meet you back here and we'll do it together. So we're actually at this second corner because I'm gonna show you one more time how to do the decrease, because you're actually just going to here. You're gonna leave this part alone. Let's just do it real quick and I'll show you how to do it. We'll keep the brown here since we don't pick up the brown again until we get here. So just let it hang out the back. And then gold, make sure you pull it tight so that your loops are tight. 1, 2. And 1. 2. And slip stitch. 1, 2. Half double crochet. 2 and 3. And as you can see, we were only meant to do 2 yellow, so we've done our 2 yellow. We're gonna slip stitch to this one, and then we are going to turn our work, and you're going to slip stitch into each of these stitches right here. Slip stitch, slip stitch, and slip stitch. And you're going to slip stitch into the actual chain space, chain 2, and then normal block after that. 1, 2, and 3. As you can see, we still have that nice sharp corner right here. Nice sharp corner, and we started our new row of blocks. So we're going to start from here. We only have 1 gold block. So this is our 1 gold block, and then we're going to move into brown. As we get down, that's when you're going to decrease here. So just continue on, and I'll meet you back up to when we're in these small corners, and we'll this small corner, and we'll finish it off together. Just remember to keep changing your colors. So as you can see, we're getting to the very end of our graph, and this should be, if you did it correctly, shaping up into a square, and it should just fold right over. You can see how much we're still have to go. But yeah, it should basically look exactly like your graph. If you made a few mistakes, it should be okay, as long as you got the correct count of squares in your graph. I just figured we could finish this up or do a couple more together just so you can get down the decrease when you get to the edges. As you can see, I decreased here. Show you a little bit more of the color change too. Dropped my gold, picked up my brown, carrying it over. And you just continue to carry over that gold all the way across. Should be pretty easy for you to do these squares now. If you're still having trouble, it's just chain 2 and 3 half double crochets, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. Pulling this gold taunt so that you cannot see it very well through the brown. Make sure I'm counting. I should have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Shut up and sit
I need one more. 1, 2. 1, 2, and 3. Pull this nice and taut. Not enough so that my thing is bending, my blanket is bending, but enough that you don't see the gold as easily. And then what I will do here is, since there is just gold and brown in this area, I'm gonna leave this brown here. I'm gonna just leave it exactly where I left off and just do the gold across. So 1, 2, and 3 golds I need to do. Make sure I got that right. Oh, see? I messed up here because I should only have 1 gold. So since I messed up, I'm only going to do 2 golds here. I'm only going to do 2 golds here. And as you can see, that, I mean, it didn't affect the blanket very much. I just have to make sure that I have the same number of squares. So I have 1, 6, 7, 8, 9 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 here, and 9 here. So even if you mess up on your colors, it's okay. Just make sure you have the exact same number of squares, no matter the color. Now, if you're doing something a little bit more complicated and you're just using this as a tutorial, you are going to have to follow that to a T, unless you want your design to be messed up, especially if you're doing like a sort of cartoony piece or anything that's like a piece of art or whatever, and you're not doing an animal pattern like we're doing here. You're going to want to keep that as similar to this as possible. Here, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't mess up my pattern. It doesn't mess up my blanket either, so long as I make sure I have the same number of squares as I am supposed to. So we're going to decrease here. Slip stitch, all the way across. And I'm starting up here, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So I'm starting with the yellow. 1, 2. And I'm gonna do 4 yellows and 1, 2, 3 browns and then a yellow. I'm just gonna keep going until I get to this last corner, and then I'll show you how to finish it up. All right, we're to our last little corner here. And we're just gonna finish this up. I'm gonna show you how to finish it. And then we're gonna start our border. For this, I'm doing a puff stitch border. I will show you how to do that. There are a lot of different borders you can do for this. I just like the puff stitch because it's a little bit more fun, I think. It goes well on a baby blanket, which is mostly what this is. We're almost to the very end. Just a couple of more squares to get us there. As you can see, we're using that decrease a lot in this section. We're down to our last square. We're just doing one more square, and then we're gonna connect it all, make it a nice corner for us. Slip stitch here. And then, just like you're gonna do a decrease, you slip stitch all through here. And our final slip stitch, and that's where you're gonna leave it. I go ahead and chain one. If you're going to continue your border, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And then continue on with the puff stitch that I'm going to show you. If not, I'm doing my border in brown, so I'm going to chain 1, leave a tail to sew in, and pull all the way through to make a little knot and to keep it nice and straight, just like that. And this is our whole blanket. It's nice and soft, and you can see all of our little tails that we're gonna sew in later. As you can see, it basically mirrors this graph that we've been working on. You can see where I've written all the numbers. It's easier, just write the numbers, and then you don't have to remember. So let's get into our puff stitch. So since I'm going to be using brown, I am going to do a slip knot. Oh, actually, I think I'm going to use a bigger hook. This. I'm going to use this one. No, that's an 8. This is a 5. 6. Let's use a 6. Just one size up, or 2 sizes. Because I want my puffs to be a little bit bigger. I want them to be a little bit more puffy. I'm going to take this corner that we just finished, and I'm going to hook it into the corner. Let's go ahead and turn this over so I can go the right way. Put the hook through. Hook on my slip knot. Make sure it's big enough for your hook. Go ahead and tighten it down, not too tight. Hook it, bring it through, and then I'm going to chain 1, 2, and I think just 2. 2, and then so as you go along, you're basically creating your border. I don't want to do a single crochet border. I just want the puff stitch on the end. So you basically just have to use your own discretion to space your puff stitches enough that basically there's enough room for them. You can also do it, since we have these squares, you could try to pace your stitches out based on these, but they won't always be the same. As you can see, this one's to the side, this one is not. So just use your best judgment for that. I'm gonna go ahead and probably leave this as my first stitch. I'm gonna leave that there, and then I'm going to wrap over like I'm gonna do a half double crochet. Make sure when you are doing these puff stitches, you're going to want it super loose. So what you're going to do is wrap around, pull through, and then pull up all of your stitches so that they match the same height of the stitch right on your hook right here. You want it to match the height. Then pull through all 3 like a half double crochet, and as you can see, it leaves a little bit of a half double crochet. You're going to be doing half double crochets in this post, so behind the post. So I'm going to wrap, go around the post, pull up, make sure all my loops are the same height. I'm not going to pull through yet. I'm going to go over one more time, which means I'll have 5 loops on my hook. Pull them as tight as I can. And then I'm going to go over one more time so that I have 7 loops on my hook. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. It might take you a little bit of wiggling. And then you can see I have created a puff stitch. This will be our last stitch, so it may look a little strange here. That's okay. We're just going to continue, and our last puff stitch will be on this. For the corners, I would recommend doing a puff stitch on this side, a puff stitch in the middle on the corner, on the very corner, and a 3rd puff stitch on this side, just to make a little bit of a border, or of a corner, I should say. But it will take you a minute to get down there. So let's keep doing these, and then I will show you how to do the corner. So for this, I can kind of judge it. Our puff stitch probably ends about here, so I'm going to do my next puff stitch here. Make sure you are pulling up your loops to the same height, as this stitch, and then pull through all 3. Then wrap over. Make sure you're doing it kind of loose. You want to keep it kind of loose. Go behind the post, pull up, make sure they're nice and the same height, loop over. You have 5 loops on your hook now. Make sure they're all the same height. Now you're at 7 loops, and then yarn over and pull through all 7. And as you can see, when I leave this, when I go on to the next stitch, this loop is no longer visible. This loop's actually down here. So as you continue, your puff stitch will fill out your entire post of your triple crochet that you did. That's one reason why you want to stretch it all the way out, so that all the stitches are the same height and you can leave a little room for that big puff right there. We'll do it one more time. I'm gonna see, as you can see, my puff stitch goes about to here on my blanket, so I'm going to create my next stitch here so I have enough room for all of my puffs. Pull it all the way up so it's the same height.
pull through all 3, then over, through. We have 3 loops all the same height, over, through. I have 5 loops all the same height, over, through, and I have 7 loops that are all the same height. Pull through all 7. It may take a little wiggling. It's a lot of loops. And there we go. And as you can see, these puff stitches just fill out as you go. So go ahead and complete to the next corner, and then I'll show you how I do the corners. So I've finished the whole border. As you can see, the corners, I went ahead and put 3 separate puff stitch in each corner so that it does a nice corner. If you don't like that, you can just do the puff stitches how you would normally do them. I just prefer it this way. So we're all the way to the bottom, and I was going to show you how to finish and also how to do those puff stitches for the corners. Here we're just doing regular puff stitch to get to the corner. 5, 7. All through. Now we're going to do the 3 in the corner. So I'm going to do one right here. It's a little harder because the hook is bigger than the stitches because we used a smaller hook in the beginning. 3, 5 loops and 7 loops through all 7. So we have our first puff stitch in our corner, and then I'm going to put the second one literally right on this sharp corner right here. If I can get my hook through it. It's a little bit of a stretch. Well, that's okay as long as I can get through. Okay. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. Now you can weave in your ends as you go and use your stitches to cover the ends that you've weaved in. That's what I did as I went, but I'm going to go ahead and leave this one because it'll be easier to just sew it into that later, along with this too. So I am going to chain 1 and slip stitch into this stitch to the first chain. If I can get my hook through it. Slip stitch. And then I'm going to do exactly what I've been doing again. So normally when you do the puff stitch, they'll tell you to just leave this stitch how it is, but I don't like how it looks, so I kind of thought of a better way to do it to make it into a puff stitch. So this is that way, but if you don't want to do it that way, you don't have to. You can just leave it like they normally do. I don't like that style, so I don't. There's our puff stitch, and then I'm gonna slip stitch into this area right here. As you can see, this kind of looks more like a puff now instead of just that chain. So I'm going to chain 1, leave a tail to sew it in, and pull through to make a nice little knot right there. And there you are. See how I fit 3 puff stitches into this corner? That's exactly how you should do it if you want to have this perfectly edged corner. And so that's all for my blanket. There will be a head that goes on it eventually, which is not my pattern, so I won't show it, but I will link it down in the description below so you can look up that pattern and make your own head. The pattern is based off of a cow pattern, but if you use the same pattern with the cinnamon and gold, it will look like a giraffe. So that was the creativity behind this one. If you like this, go ahead and hit the notifications bell and the subscribe. I will have many more tutorials coming, and also many more projects that I'll be making up myself, or free patterns that I happen to find that I would love to do with y'all.